The evening light streamed through the tall windows of Elysium Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant, bathing the interior in a warm golden glow that reflected off crystal glasses and polished silverware. Outside, the city skyline stood proudly against the darkening sky, a testament to power, ambition, and success. Inside these walls, fortunes were discussed, deals were made, and the elite of society dined in luxurious comfort, separate from the ordinary world. Sophia Morgan moved with practiced grace between the tables, her red uniform crisp and immaculate. Her steps were measured, her posture perfect, her smile professional, yet distant. At 35, she carried herself with a dignity that seemed at odds with her role as a server in even this prestigious establishment. There was something in her eyes, a depth of intelligence and awareness that careful observers might notice did not quite match her current station in life. Those eyes now glanced toward table 7 in the corner, where new guests had been seated. The maitre d' had whispered a warning as he passed. Important clients, very important. The owner himself had greeted them. Three men in impeccably tailored suits surveyed the restaurant like generals assessing a battlefield. At their center sat Khalid Hassan, CEO of Hassan International Hotels, his presence commanding attention without effort. At 45, Khalid cut an imposing figure, 6'2" with broad shoulders wrapped in a midnight blue Brioni suit that accentuated his athletic build. His dark beard was meticulously groomed, framing full lips and a strong jawline. His eyes, deep and penetrating, moved constantly, missing nothing. On his right wrist gleamed a Patek Philippe timepiece, worth more than what most of the restaurant staff earned in a year. On his left hand, a silver ring with ancient Arabic inscriptions caught the light when he moved a family heirloom passed down through generations of the Hassan family. When deep in thought or tense, he would unconsciously turn this ring with his thumb, a habit formed through years of bearing the weight of his family legacy. To his right sat Ibrahim, his security chief and most trusted advisor, 50 years old with a face weathered by experience and eyes that had seen too much. A former Saudi intelligence officer with connections spanning continents, Ibrahim had served Khalid's family for decades. To Khalid's left sat a younger executive from the company, eager to impress his powerful employer. Sophia approached the table with professional confidence. "Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Elysium. May I start you with something to drink?" Instead of answering, Khalid turned to his companions and said something in rapid Arabic, triggering laughter from both men. Sophia stood patiently, her expression revealing nothing. She had dealt with worse. Khalid finally turned his attention to her. "A bottle of your 1982 Lafite Rothschild," he said, his accent subtle but distinctive. His eyes lingered on her name tag, then traveled back to her face. "And perhaps you could recommend something special, Sophia." "The chef's tasting menu is exceptional tonight," she replied smoothly. "It features a Wagyu beef course with truffles that is not available on the regular menu." Khalid leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. "I am not interested in what everyone else gets." His voice carried the easy confidence of a man accustomed to getting exactly what he wanted. "I am Khalid Hassan. Perhaps you have heard of me." She nodded politely, though her expression indicated she had not. This seemed to both surprise and irritate him. "I own the Hassan International Hotels," he continued, waiting for recognition to dawn. When it did not, a flicker of annoyance crossed his face. "I just acquired the building across the street. Soon this whole block will be mine." "Congratulations, Mr. Hassan. I will fetch that wine for you." Sophia turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Wait." The tone had changed, carrying an edge of challenge. The restaurant had grown quieter, as if sensing the brewing spectacle. "I have a proposition for you." His companions exchanged knowing glances, smirking in anticipation. Sophia's stomach tightened, but her expression remained neutral. "Sir." Khalid reached into his jacket and withdrew a sleek leather wallet. With deliberate slowness, he extracted a check and placed it on the table. $1 million, he said, voice carrying just loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "If you can take my dinner order in Arabic." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the pianist in the corner had paused. "That is inappropriate, sir," Sophia said quietly. "Is it?" Khalid's smile widened. "I am simply appreciating culture. Most Americans only speak one language." He tapped the check with a manicured finger. $1 million, just a few sentences in Arabic. Or is that too difficult for a waitress? The way he said waitress made it sound like the lowest profession imaginable. Heat crept up Sophia's neck, not from embarrassment, but from anger. The nearby tables had gone silent, watching the spectacle unfold. Khalid leaned back, triumphant at her silence. As I thought, well, the wine then. Sophia's Arabic flowed perfectly, her pronunciation flawless, her dialect that of educated upper class from the Gulf region. I would be happy to take your order, sir. What would you like to eat this evening? Perhaps something from our selection of imported seafood. The Arabian Gulf prawns are particularly excellent tonight. Khalid froze, his smug expression evaporating. His companions looked equally stunned. Ibrahim straightened in his chair, suddenly alert and reassessing the woman before them. She continued in Arabic, her voice gaining strength. May I suggest our signature Wagyu beef? It is slow-cooked for 8 hours and seasoned with herbs imported from Morocco. Every eye in the restaurant was now fixed on their table. The atmosphere had transformed completely. Khalid recovered first, responding in Arabic. Where did you learn to speak with such perfect dialect? Harvard, Sophia replied, still in flawless Arabic. Harvard University Linguistics Department. I specialized in Semitic languages. She switched back to English. Will that be all, Mr. Hassan? Or would you like to hear my Farsi as well? A flush crawled up Khalid's neck. You speak Farsi too. And French, Russian, and enough Mandarin to get by. She gestured to the check still sitting on the table. Will you be paying that now or after your meal? The nearby diners erupted in whispers. One woman actually applauded. Something shifted in Khalid's eyes. The irritation gave way to genuine curiosity. Harvard linguistics, yet you are working as a waitress. Career changes happen, Sophia replied, her smile tightening. Now about that wine. As she turned, Khalid called after one. The check is yours. I am a man of my word. She paused, then looked over her shoulder. Keep your money, Mr. Hassan. I do not need your charity. The words tasted sweet as she walked away head high. Behind her, Khalid Hassan stared in disbelief, perhaps for the first time in his adult life, completely at a loss for words. Ibrahim leaned in close, whispering something in his ear, but Khalid waved him off, his eyes never leaving Sophia's retreating figure. The waitress, Sophia, according to her name tag, moved through the restaurant with quiet efficiency. Nothing in her demeanor suggested she was anything other than what she appeared to be. Yet she had just spoken to him in impeccable Arabic with a regional accent he typically only heard in diplomatic circles. Should I have security look into her? Ibrahim murmured beside him. Khalid waved the suggestion away. Not here, but find out everything you can. His reputation for thorough research was legendary. No deal was signed, no property acquired without exhaustive background checks on all involved parties. Harvard linguistics to serving tables, he mused, swirling the ruby red wine in his glass. There is a story there. The truth was Khalid was bored. Building his hotel empire from the ruins of his father's business had consumed the past 10 years of his life. Now at 45, he had achieved everything he had set out to do. The New York expansion was almost complete. His bid for the historic Drake building nearly secured. Success had become predictable. But this woman, she was a mystery, and mysteries were rare in his world. When she returned with their appetizers, Khalid observed her more carefully. Subtle details he had missed before. The way she carried herself, her perfect posture, the slight callus on her right middle finger, a writer's mark. Her hands moved with deliberate grace, placing each dish precisely. These are compliments of the chef, she said, presenting delicate plates of seared scallops with truffle foam. Please thank him for me. Khalid maintained eye contact longer than necessary, and I apologize for my behavior earlier. It was ungentlemanly. Her expression revealed nothing. Enjoy your meal, sir. Now as she walked away, Ibrahim leaned forward. I have preliminary information, he said quietly. Khalid's interest peaked. Ibrahim's efficiency was legendary. Already just the basics from public records. Sophia Morgan, 35, bachelor's and master's degrees from Harvard in linguistics, specializing in Middle Eastern languages. She did indeed work at the State Department as a translator for 6 years. Then nothing for 2 years until she started working here 8 months ago. A significant career downgrade, Khalid noted. What happened during those 2 years? That is what interests me, Ibrahim replied. Her digital footprint disappears entirely. No social media, no credit card activity, no address on file. It is as if she vanished. Khalid's fingers absently turned the silver ring on his left hand. And now she serves wine to entitled businessmen who underestimate her. Curious. There is more, Ibrahim added. Her father was William Morgan. The name struck a chord. The former ambassador, Ibrahim nodded, ambassador to Saudi Arabia among other postings, died in a car accident 2 years ago. Khalid went very still. William Morgan, he repeated softly. I met him once, with my father. He looked up sharply. When exactly did he die? April 17th, 2 years ago. 1 week after my father died. Khalid's voice had gone cold. That cannot be a coincidence. The rest of the meal passed in a blur of perfect service and exquisite food, but Khalid's mind was elsewhere. He observed Sophia from across the room, seeing her now through new eyes. The daughter of Ambassador Morgan, a Harvard-educated linguist working as a waitress, a woman in hiding. When the check came, he left a generous tip, but did not attempt to engage Sophia again. The time for games was over. This was now something else entirely. Back in his penthouse suite at the Hassan Grand Hotel, Khalid stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. The city lights spread before him like a carpet of stars fallen to earth. Behind him, Ibrahim worked quietly at a laptop, putting together the pieces of Sophia Morgan's life. Her father's death was ruled an accident, Ibrahim reported. Single car crash on a country road in Virginia. No witnesses. The ambassador was alone in the vehicle. Khalid turned from the window. My father died of a heart attack. Very sudden. Very convenient. Too convenient, Ibrahim agreed, especially considering what they were working on together. Project Phoenix. Khalid spoke the words like a prayer. My father never shared the details, only that it involved tracking illicit financial networks between certain elements in our country and yours. Money laundering for terrorism, Ibrahim clarified. Your father suspected Faisal bin Rashid was using his oil wealth to fund extremist cells while presenting himself as a moderate reformer to the West. And Ambassador Morgan was helping him. Khalid moved to the bar and poured himself a glass of water. He never drank alcohol, a personal choice that often surprised his Western business associates. Now they are both dead, and the ambassador's daughter is hiding in plain sight as a waitress. Ibrahim looked up from his laptop. There is something else. Something troubling. Sophia Morgan is technically a person of interest in an ongoing investigation. Khalid's eyebrows rose. What kind of investigation? The murder of Victor Caldwell, former CIA liaison to the State Department. He was found dead in his Georgetown home 2 years ago, shortly after Ambassador Morgan's death. Ms. Morgan disappeared around the same time. Khalid's mind raced through the implications. They think she killed him. There is no warrant for her arrest, just a notation that the FBI would like to speak with her, as she was one of the last people to see him alive. But the timing is suspicious, Khalid finished. He stared at the glass in his hand, watching the light play through the crystal. I need to speak with her again. Properly this time. That would be unwise, Ibrahim cautioned, if she is involved in something dangerous. My father died investigating bin Rashid. Khalid cut him off. Her father died 1 week later. Now she is hiding as a waitress. These cannot be unrelated events. He set the glass down with a decisive click. I want to know what happened to my father, Ibrahim. She may have those answers. The next evening found Khalid back at Elysium alone this time. He requested table 7 again and waited patiently. When Sophia appeared, her professional smile faltered slightly upon seeing him. Mr. Hassan, back so soon. The food was excellent, he replied smoothly. I find myself craving more. What can I get for you this evening? Her tone was polite but guarded. Khalid regarded her carefully. I believe we got off on the wrong foot yesterday, Ms. Morgan. May I start again? She tensed at his use of her last name. You had me investigated. I investigate everyone I encounter in business. It is a habit that has served me well. I am not a business associate. I am your server. Her words were clipped. And yet we have much more in common than you might think. His voice dropped to ensure only she could hear. For instance, we both lost our fathers in the same week 2 years ago, under circumstances that might be called suspicious. The color drained from her face. I have other tables. Please, Khalid said softly. 5 minutes of your time. That is all I ask. I believe I have information that might interest you. Sophia glanced around. The restaurant was busy, but not overwhelmingly so. After a moment of internal debate, she gave a terse nod. My break is in 20 minutes. The bar at the Four Seasons across the street. 5 minutes only. Thank you. Khalid picked up the menu. In the meantime, I will have the seared scallops and the wagyu, and sparkling water, not wine. She nodded and moved away, her posture even more rigid than before. Khalid watched her go, knowing he had taken a calculated risk. If she was indeed involved in something dangerous, he might be placing himself in the crosshairs as well. But the need to know the truth about his father's death outweighed the potential danger. He finished his meal quickly and settled the bill. The Four Seasons bar was elegant and discreet, with private alcoves where conversations could remain confidential. Khalid chose one in the corner with a clear view of both entrances. Old habits from growing up in a world where enemies sometimes hid behind smiles. Sophia arrived exactly 20 minutes after their conversation, still wearing her Elysium uniform. She slid into the seat across from him, her eyes wary. 5 minutes, she reminded him. Thank you for coming. Khalid signaled the waiter. Would you like something to drink? No, her response was curt. You said you had information about my father. Khalid studied her for a moment. Up close, the resemblance to Ambassador Morgan was more apparent. The same determined set of the jaw, the same analytical gaze. I believe our fathers were murdered. She didn't flinch at his bluntness. My father died in a car accident. 1 week after my father suffered a sudden heart attack. Both men healthy, both deaths unexpected, both investigating the same man. A flicker of something recognition, fear, anger crossed her face. What man? Faisal bin Rashid. The name hung in the air between them. Sophia's hands resting on the table curled into fists. You recognize the name, Khalid noted. Everyone in diplomatic circles knows bin Rashid. But not everyone knows about Project Phoenix. Her eyes widened almost imperceptibly. I need to get back to work. Sophia. Khalid leaned forward. I am not your enemy. My father died seeking the truth about bin Rashid's operations. I believe your father was helping him. Whatever happened 2 years ago, we are on the same side. You cannot possibly know that. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Then why are you hiding? Why is an accomplished linguist with State Department experience serving wine in a restaurant? Why did you disappear after Victor Caldwell was found dead? At the mention of Caldwell, her expression darkened. You have no idea what you are getting into. Then enlighten me. Khalid reached into his jacket and withdrew a small photograph, sliding it across the table. This was taken 1 month before my father died. Sophia looked down at the photo. 3 men stood on the terrace of a beautiful estate, the Saudi desert visible in the background. In the center was Omar Hassan, Khalid's father, a dignified man in his 60s. To his right stood William Morgan, Sophia's father, tall and distinguished. The third man was unknown to her, an American in his 50s. Who is the third man? She asked. Victor Caldwell, Khalid replied. The man you supposedly murdered. Her head snapped up. I did not murder anyone. Then why are you hiding from the FBI? Why change your entire life? Why disappear? Sophia stared at the photograph, her fingers trembling slightly as they traced her father's image. You said 5 minutes. Time is up. Before Khalid could respond, she stood and walked rapidly toward the exit. He considered following, but decided against it. She needed time to process what he had shared, time to decide if she could trust him. Instead, he picked up the photograph and studied it again. His father, Ambassador Morgan, and Caldwell. 3 men connected by a secret project. 2 now dead, 1 murdered, and the daughter of 1 in hiding. Ibrahim was waiting in the hotel suite when Khalid returned. How did it go? He asked. She is frightened, Khalid replied, loosening his tie, but also curious. I showed her the photograph of our fathers with Caldwell. Ibrahim frowned. That was a risk. A calculated one. Khalid moved to the windows again, his thinking place. She did not kill Caldwell Ibrahim. I am certain of it, but she knows who did. Bin Rashid. Or someone working for him. Khalid turned the silver ring on his finger, a habit when deep in thought. What have you found about Operation Mirage? Very little. It appears to be classified at the highest levels, But there are whispers about a massive infrastructure project in the Gulf of Mexico. Officially, it is an oil platform. Unofficially, yes, it could be a cover for something else. Something bin Rashid is funding through a network of shell companies. Khalid nodded slowly. My father was following the money, and it got him killed. He turned from the window. We need Sophia Morgan. She has the missing pieces. And if she refuses to help, she will not refuse, Khalid said confidently. She wants justice for her father as much as I want it for mine. The next morning, Sophia opened her apartment door to find a small package outside. No return address, just her name written in elegant script. Inside was a burner phone and a note. When you are ready to talk, turn this on, KH. She closed the door and leaned against it, heart racing. Khalid Hassan was dangerous, not because he meant her harm, but because he was stirring waters she had fought to keep still for 2 years. Waters where predators lurked. The photograph he had shown her changed everything. Her father with Omar Hassan and Victor Caldwell. The implications were staggering. Her small apartment felt suddenly vulnerable. She moved to the window and peered through the blinds. The street below looked normal, but appearances could be deceiving. She had learned that lesson at terrible cost. The burner phone felt heavy in her hand. A lifeline or a trap, there was no way to know without taking the risk. Her gaze fell on the bookshelf across the room, specifically on the worn copy of the Odyssey in the original Greek, a gift from her father on her 16th birthday. Inside was the only photograph she had kept from her previous life. William Morgan standing proudly beside his daughter at her Harvard graduation. "What would you do, Dad?" she whispered to the empty room. The answer came not in words, but in the memory of his voice. "The truth may be dangerous, Sophie, but lies are always more dangerous in the end." With a deep breath, she turned on the burner phone. It rang almost immediately. "You made the right choice," Khalid's voice came through calm and assured. "I have not made any choice yet," Sophia replied, "but I am listening." "I need a translator for a new hotel project in Dubai," Khalid said, his voice all business now. "Someone familiar with both the language and the cultural nuances. The position pays well and includes accommodations at the Hassan Grand Hotel while in New York." Sophia understood immediately. A cover story, a legitimate reason for their association. "Why me?" "Your credentials are impressive. Harvard-educated State Department experience, multiple languages. And you made it clear you are open to career changes." She almost smiled despite herself. "When would this position start?" "Today. I have documents that need immediate translation. They contain technical specifications that must be accurately rendered. I will send a car for you in 1 hour." Sophia hesitated. Going to Khalid's hotel meant stepping out of the shadows she had carefully hidden within. But staying hidden had gained her nothing in 2 years. No answers, no justice, no peace. "I will be ready," she said finally. "Excellent. Ibrahim will meet you in the lobby. You can trust him completely." The line went dead. Sophia stared at the phone, wondering if she had just made a terrible mistake or taken the first step toward the truth she had been seeking since the day she found her father's secret files. 1 hour later, she stood in the opulent lobby of the Hassan Grand Hotel. Ibrahim approached, his expression neutral, but his eyes watchful. "Ms. Morgan, thank you for coming. Mr. Hassan is waiting upstairs." The elevator ride to the penthouse was silent. Ibrahim was not a man for small talk, and Sophia appreciated that. Her mind was racing with possibilities, contingency plans, and the constant awareness that she was potentially walking into danger. The penthouse suite occupied the entire top floor of the hotel. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of Central Park and the Manhattan skyline. The decor was a perfect blend of Eastern and Western aesthetics, opulent yet tasteful. Khalid stood by a large desk examining documents spread across its surface. He looked up as they entered, his expression grave. "Thank you for coming," he said, gesturing to the documents. "These are what I needed translated." Sophia approached cautiously. The papers were covered in Arabic text, complex financial statements and business contracts. But as she leaned closer, she saw what Khalid really wanted her to see. A photograph partially hidden beneath the contracts. A photograph that made her blood run cold. There in the Hassan family estate in Saudi Arabia stood her father and Omar Hassan. But with them was a third man. Not Caldwell this time, but someone far more dangerous. Someone whose presence in that photograph changed everything she thought she knew about her father's death. Faisal bin Rashid himself. She looked up at Khalid, unable to hide her shock. Where did you get this? My father's personal safe. I found it after his death, along with notes about Project Phoenix and Operation Mirage. But many of the documents were encrypted or incomplete. He moved closer, his voice dropping. Your father was not just helping mine, Sophia. They were working together to expose bin Rashid's network. And I believe someone inside our government betrayed them both. Sophia's mind raced, connecting dots she had been trying to piece together for 2 years. Caldwell, she whispered. It was Caldwell who betrayed them. Yes, Khalid confirmed. And when you discovered this, he tried to kill me. The memories flooded back sharp and painful. I escaped, barely, but by then it was too late. The FBI thought I had murdered him because my DNA was all over his house. We had been colleagues, friends, I thought. Her voice broke slightly. I have been hiding ever since, trying to gather evidence to clear my name and find out who is really behind all this. Khalid's expression softened. Now we will find out together, for your father and for mine. For the first time in 2 years, Sophia felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The burden she had carried alone for so long might finally be shared. But as Khalid extended his hand in alliance, a shadow moved across the penthouse windows. A black helicopter hovering too close to be coincidental. Ibrahim's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening. Security breach in the lobby, armed men claiming to be federal agents. Khalid's reaction was immediate. We need to move, now. He gathered the documents swiftly, shoving them into a secure briefcase. Ibrahim Protocol 7. Ibrahim nodded and moved quickly to a panel on the wall, entering a code that revealed a hidden door. Ms. Morgan, Khalid said, extending his hand again. I believe our lives depend on whether you trust me in this moment. Sophia looked from the hovering helicopter to the hidden door to Khalid's outstretched hand. She thought of her father of justice, long denied of the truth that had remained elusive for too long. She took his hand. Call me Sophia, she said. If we are going to face killers together, he should be on a first-name basis. A ghost of a smile touched Khalid's lips. Sophia it is. He gestured toward the hidden door where Ibrahim was waiting. After you. As they disappeared through the secret passage, the main door to the penthouse burst open, men in tactical gear flooding the room. But their quarry was already gone, descending through the service elevator to the underground parking garage where a nondescript vehicle waited. The game had changed. The hunters had become the hunted. And two people from different worlds found themselves bound by a common purpose, justice for their fathers, and the truth about Operation Mirage. The unmarked sedan moved swiftly through Manhattan traffic, Ibrahim navigating with the precision of a man accustomed to high-pressure situations. From the back seat, Sophia watched the city blur past her mind, racing faster than the vehicle carrying them away from danger. Who were they? She asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Not actual federal agents, I assume. Khalid, seated beside her, was examining the contents of his briefcase. No, the FBI would announce themselves properly, follow protocols. These men came in through service entrances, disabled security cameras first. Professional, military trained. Mercenaries, Ibrahim added from the driver's seat, eyes constantly checking mirrors. Likely former special forces hired through cutouts to maintain deniability. Sophia processed this information. How did they find me? I have been careful for 2 years. They were not looking for you, Khalid replied, his expression grim. They were looking for this. He held up a small flash drive. My father's final report on Operation Mirage, encrypted but potentially devastating to bin Rashid if decoded. And they knew you had it. Someone did. Khalid's fingers absently turned the silver ring on his left hand. Someone who has been watching me since I began my own investigation 6 months ago. The car turned onto a less traveled street, then down into an underground parking garage beneath an unassuming apartment building in the Upper West Side. Safe house, Ibrahim explained as they exited the vehicle. Owned through a shell corporation with no connection to Hassan International. No one knows about this place except the three of us. The apartment was surprisingly modest given Khalid's wealth. Functional furniture, state-of-the-art security systems, and windows with a clear view of the surrounding streets. A place designed for surveillance rather than comfort. You have been preparing for this, Sophia observed. Khalid nodded, setting his briefcase on the dining table. For 2 years, since my father died. He turned to face her fully. Now I believe it is time we shared what we know. Everything. Sophia hesitated only briefly before nodding. Where should I start? The beginning, your role at the State Department. How you became involved in all this. She took a deep breath. I was a senior linguistics specialist focusing on Arabic dialects and cryptolinguistics. My job was to analyze communications, identify regional markers, linguistic patterns that might reveal the origin of messages, documents, or speakers. Valuable skills for intelligence work, Ibrahim noted. Yes, which is why I was assigned to a special task force 2 years ago. Officially, we were analyzing trade agreements between American companies and Saudi entities. Unofficially, we were tracking money movement between certain Saudi citizens and organizations with terrorist connections. Project Phoenix, Khalid supplied. Exactly. My father was the diplomatic liaison. Victor Caldwell was the CIA representative. We worked closely for 6 months tracing financial networks, shell companies' cutouts, all leading back to one man. Bin Rashid, Khalid said, the name falling like a stone between them. Sophia nodded. But what we didn't know, what I only discovered later, was that Bin Rashid was just the financial arm of something much bigger. Something called Operation Mirage. Khalid opened his briefcase and spread several documents across the table. According to my father's notes, Operation Mirage was a long-term plan to destabilize moderate governments in the Middle East, replace key officials with extremist sympathizers, and control critical infrastructure and resources. A shadow coup, Ibrahim added, not just in Saudi Arabia, but across the region, with American help. Caldwell, Sophia confirmed. He was their man inside our intelligence community, feeding them information, undermining investigations, protecting the network. When my father and yours got too close to exposing the full scope of the operation, they were eliminated. Khalid finished, his voice hardening, made to look like accidents. Clean, deniable. But they made a mistake with my father, Sophia continued. He suspected Caldwell was compromised. He kept separate notes, encrypted files. He gave me access codes the night before he died. Her voice faltered. The last time I saw him alive. The room fell silent. Ibrahim moved to the window, keeping watch on the street below. Khalid studied Sophia with newfound respect. What happened with Caldwell? He asked quietly. Her eyes darkened with the memory. I found evidence in my father's files linking Caldwell directly to Bin Rashid. Payment records, meeting transcripts. I confronted him, thinking naively that there must be some explanation, that the man I had worked with for years couldn't be a traitor. A bitter smile crossed her face. I was wrong. He tried to kill you. He invited me to his home in Georgetown to discuss my concerns privately. When I arrived, he offered me a drink. It was drugged. I realized something was wrong when the room started spinning. He admitted everything while watching me lose consciousness. How Bin Rashid had paid him millions. How my father and yours had been eliminated on his recommendation. How I would be found dead from an apparent suicide, the guilt of my father's death, too much to bear. Khalid's expression darkened with anger. But you survived. I had suspected something might happen. Years of linguistic analysis teaches you to read people, not just words. I had taken a counteragent before meeting him, something that would delay the effects of common sedatives. When he thought I was unconscious, I managed to fight back. There was a struggle. He fell, hit his head on the corner of his desk. Killing him, Khalid concluded. Yes, self-defense. But who would believe me? A foreign agent with deep CIA connections dead, and only my word about his betrayal. I knew how it would look. So I ran, took what evidence I could, and disappeared. Khalid processed her story, finding it aligned with the fragments of information he had gathered over the past 2 years. Why not go public with the evidence, expose them all? The evidence was incomplete, suggestive but not conclusive, enough to get me killed, not enough to bring down the network. Sophia moved to the table, examining the documents Khalid had spread out. What about you? How did you get involved? Khalid's gaze drifted to the window, to the Manhattan skyline beyond. My father built his hotel empire over 4 decades. He was respected, connected to the royal family, but also a modernizer, a reformer. He believed Saudi Arabia needed to evolve to embrace certain Western values while maintaining our cultural identity. He paused, collecting memories. 6 months before he died, he began acting differently. Cautious, concerned. He increased security, changed routines. He told me he was working on something important, something that could cleanse our country of those who would drag it back into darkness. His words. Project Phoenix, Sophia supplied. Yes, though he never called it that to me. 3 weeks before his death, he gave me this. Khalid touched the silver ring on his finger. It belonged to my grandfather and his father before him, a family heirloom. But my father had never shown interest in such traditions before. He told me to keep it safe, that it was more valuable than I knew. Ibrahim joined them at the table. After Omar died, Khalid found partial files notes, references to meetings with your father with Caldwell, mentions of bin Rashid and suspicious financial movements, but many documents were missing. I believe my father gave the most damning evidence to yours for safekeeping, Khalid continued. He must have suspected someone in our government was compromised. Just as my father suspected Caldwell, Sophia mused. They were working together, sharing information outside official channels. She looked up suddenly. The ring. May I see it? Khalid hesitated only a moment before sliding the silver band from his finger and placing it in her palm. Sophia examined it carefully, turning it in the light. The band was wide, intricately engraved with ancient Arabic calligraphy. These aren't just decorative patterns, she said, tracing the engravings. Some of these are numerals. Coordinates, perhaps, or a code. Ibrahim leaned closer. I never noticed that. Few would unless they were trained to look for embedded linguistics, she replied, still studying the ring. Your father was clever. He hid information in plain sight, knowing that if anything happened to him, you would inherit the ring. Khalid felt a surge of emotion. His father, even in his final days, had been thinking ahead, laying breadcrumbs for his son to follow. Can you decipher it? With time, yes. It looks like a location reference combined with an access code. But I need equipment, reference materials. Whatever you need, Khalid promised. But we must move cautiously now. If they found us at the hotel, they may have other sources of information. As if on cue, Ibrahim's secure phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression darkening. Our security team reports unusual activity at all Hassan International properties in the city. Electronic intrusions, surveillance teams. They're looking for us, Khalid concluded, or more specifically for what we know. He turned to Sophia. We need to decipher that ring and find whatever my father hidden. It may be the final piece we need to expose the entire operation. Sophia nodded, already mentally calculating what she would need. I can do it, but not here. I need access to specialized linguistic software, comparative analysis tools. My sister, Khalid said suddenly, Amira Hassan, she's a neurologist at Columbia Medical Center, but she minored in computational linguistics. She has contacts in the department, could get us access to their resources. Can she be trusted? Sophia asked cautiously. With my life, Khalid replied without hesitation. She and I have been allies since childhood. She never believed our father's death was natural causes. Then we go to Columbia, Sophia decided, but carefully. They'll be watching obvious locations. Ibrahim was already gathering essential items from around the safe house. I have a secure vehicle in a secondary location. Different plates registered to a shell company. We will take back streets, approach the campus from an unexpected direction. As they prepared to leave, Sophia found herself studying Khalid with new eyes. The arrogant tycoon from the restaurant had been a mask, she realized. This was the real man, focused, intelligent, driven by purpose rather than ego. A man who, like her, had lost a father to violence and deception. A man seeking truth at any cost. Khalid caught her gaze and held it. For a moment, something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, perhaps, of kindred spirits thrust together by tragedy. Ready, he asked quietly. She nodded. Ready. The journey to Columbia University took twice as long as normal, with Ibrahim employing counter-surveillance techniques learned during his intelligence career. Multiple vehicle changes, doubling back periodic stops to ensure they weren't followed. By the time they arrived at the medical center, dusk was falling over the city. Dr. Amira Hassan was finishing her rounds when her secure phone received a message containing only a childhood code she and her brother had created decades ago. 5 minutes later, she met them at a service entrance, her intelligent eyes quickly assessing the situation. You look terrible, she told her brother with blunt affection before turning to Sophia Morgan. And you must be the woman who has my brother risking his empire. I hope you're worth it. Despite the tension of their situation, Sophia found herself liking the younger woman immediately. I'm trying to be, she replied honestly. The neurologist's office was spacious and private with the latest medical technology and a separate computer station for research. Khalid briefly explained their situation, while Ibrahim secured the room. I knew it, Amira Hassan said when her brother finished. I told you 2 years ago that Baba was murdered. His heart was strong as a lion's. She turned to Sophia Morgan. And your father was helping him expose these traitors. Yes, they were working together outside official channels. They must have suspected insider threats. Show me this ring, the doctor demanded. Khalid placed it in his sister's palm. She examined it under a medical magnifying glass, then nodded. The linguistics lab is 2 floors down. Dr. Nazari owes me a favor for diagnosing his migraines when 3 other neurologists failed. He'll give us access without questions. 30 minutes later, Sophia Morgan sat at a specialized computer workstation in the empty linguistics lab, the ring secured in a small scanner that created a 3-dimensional digital image of the engravings. Dr. Hassan stood nearby occasionally offering insights from her own linguistics background, while Khalid and Ibrahim kept watch at the door. The pattern repeats, Sophia Morgan muttered, manipulating the image on screen. But with subtle variations, not random, deliberate, like a musical theme with variations. A substitution cipher, Dr. Hassan suggested. More sophisticated. See how the decorative elements change orientation. Those aren't just artistic choices. Sophia typed rapidly, applying algorithmic analysis to the patterns. Your father was brilliant. He used classical Arabic poetic meter as an encryption key. Khalid moved closer, watching the screen as patterns highlighted and rearranged. Can you break it? I already have. Sophia pointed to a sequence of numbers and letters appearing in the analysis window. Coordinates and an access code. The coordinates point to... She pulled up a mapping program and entered the numbers. The map centered on Washington, D.C., zooming in on a financial district. First National Bank of Washington. Ibrahim read over her shoulder. The access code must be for a safety deposit box. Khalid straightened. My father maintained accounts at several American banks to facilitate international business. This must be where he stored the evidence that could expose the entire operation. We need to go there, Sophia said, standing. Tomorrow morning when the bank opens. Dr. Hassan placed a hand on her brother's arm. You can't go yourself. Your face is too recognizable. If they're hunting you, I'll go, Sophia Morgan volunteered. With Ibrahim, we'll attract less attention than Khalid Hassan walking into a bank in the capital. Ibrahim nodded approval. We can take the overnight train, arrive in Washington early morning. Less security than airports, fewer cameras. I don't like splitting up, Khalid said, his brow furrowing. It's logical, his sister countered. You'll stay with me. My apartment has excellent security and no connection to Hassan International. Once they have the evidence, they can return immediately. The decision made, they moved quickly. Dr. Hassan made a copy of the access code, while Ibrahim arranged train tickets through secure channels. Before they departed the linguistics lab, the doctor pulled her brother aside. She's remarkable, she whispered, nodding towards Sophia Morgan. Brilliant mind, calm under pressure. No wonder father trusted her father. Khalid watched Sophia gathering her notes, her movements efficient and purposeful. Yes, he agreed quietly. She is. Ibrahim and Sophia left for Washington within the hour, taking only essential items and the all-important access code. Khalid and his sister returned to her Upper West Side apartment, a modern space with panoramic views of the Hudson River. You care for her, Dr. Hassan observed as she prepared tea in her kitchen. Khalid, standing at the window watching the nightlights reflect on the river, did not immediately respond. It's not a criticism, brother, she continued. It's been too long since you connected with someone on more than a superficial level. Not since Layla. This is different, he said finally. Layla was a lifetime ago, a different man's love. And yet I see something in your eyes when you look at Sophia Morgan that I haven't seen in years. Interest, respect, perhaps something more. Khalid accepted the tea his sister offered. We are bound by circumstances, by our father's legacies. Nothing more. If you say so. Her tone made it clear she didn't believe him. But connections formed under pressure often prove the strongest. The conversation shifted to practical matters, security or arrangements, contingency plans, next steps once the evidence was secured. Yet throughout the evening, Khalid found his thoughts returning to Sophia, her courage in confronting Caldwell, her brilliance in deciphering the ring, her determination to find justice for her father, no matter the personal cost. His sister was right, he acknowledged silently. There was something there, something beyond their shared mission. But what future could exist between them? A Saudi hotel magnate and an American linguist in hiding. After Operation Mirage was exposed, after justice was served, they would return to different worlds, different lives, if they survived that long. On the overnight train to Washington, Sophia sat beside the window watching the darkened landscape slide past. Ibrahim sat across from her, his posture relaxed but his eyes alert, constantly scanning their surroundings. "You should sleep," he advised. "Tomorrow will require sharp focus." "My mind is too active," she admitted. 2 years of hiding, searching for answers, and suddenly everything is accelerating. Ibrahim studied her thoughtfully. "You remind me of someone I knew long ago, another woman who refused to accept convenient lies." "What happened to her?" A shadow crossed his weathered face. "She died seeking truth in a region that often punishes such pursuits." "My sister." The personal revelation surprised Sophia. Ibrahim had seemed so contained, so professional. "I'm sorry. It was many years ago. Her death is why I joined intelligence services, why I eventually came to work for the Hassan family." Omar Hassan was one of the few men in power who valued truth over convenience, progress over tradition. "Like his son, Sophia observed. A hint of a smile touched Ibrahim's lips. "Khalid is very much his father's son, though it took him time to embrace that legacy. For years, he focused only on building the business, expanding the empire. His father's death changed him, gave him purpose beyond wealth." Sophia thought about the transformation she had witnessed. The arrogant businessman at the restaurant seemed worlds away from the focused, determined man she had come to know in the past 24 hours. "Why did you refuse the $1 million?" Ibrahim asked suddenly. Most people would have taken it. The question caught her off guard. "Pride, perhaps, or dignity. I didn't like being underestimated, treated as entertainment for wealthy men." Ibrahim nodded. "And yet, that moment of pride led us here, to this train, this mission. Strange how fate works." "I don't believe in fate," Sophia replied. "I believe in choices, consequences." "As you wish, but in my experience, some paths seem written before we walk them." Ibrahim checked his watch. "We should arrive in Washington by 6 a.m. The bank opens at 9. You should try to rest even if sleep eludes you." Sophia turned back to the window, but her reflection showed a woman changed by recent events. The cautious, hidden waitress was gone. In her place was someone reclaiming her true self, the linguist, the analyst, the daughter seeking justice. And somewhere in that transformation, she realized Khalid Hassan had become essential. Not just his resources or his connections, but his presence, his determination that matched her own, his intelligence that challenged her, his quiet strength in the face of danger. Sleep eventually came, but her dreams were troubled. Memories of her father, images of Caldwell's betrayal, and throughout the steady presence of dark eyes watching over her, keeping her safe. Morning brought them to Washington, the capital city, awakening to another day of political machinations and power plays. They took a taxi from Union Station to a coffee shop 3 blocks from First National Bank, waiting until normal business hours began. "Remember," Ibrahim said as they approached the bank at precisely 9:15, "we are simply accessing a safety deposit box left to you by a relative. Nothing unusual or suspicious." "I understand," Sophia replied, straightening her jacket. She had dressed conservatively in clothes purchased at a department store near the station, a blue blazer over a white blouse, dark slacks. Professional, forgettable. Inside, the bank manager was helpful but appropriately cautious. Sophia presented the access code along with identification documents Ibrahim had somehow procured overnight, a driver's license identifying her as Sarah Martinez, the name on the account. "Of course, Miss Martinez, if you'll follow me to our vault area." The safety deposit box was medium-sized, unremarkable among hundreds of others. Once they were alone in the private viewing room, Sophia opened it with hands that trembled slightly. Inside lay a sealed manila envelope and a small digital recorder. The envelope contained photographs and documents, financial records, meeting transcripts, names and dates, evidence of Operation Mirage in its entirety. The recorder held audio files including a conversation between Omar Hassan and William Morgan discussing their discoveries. "This is it," Sophia whispered, scanning the documents. "The complete picture. Bin Rashid's network, his American contacts, the planned operations across the Middle East. Everything our fathers died to expose." Ibrahim examined the materials with a professional eye. This would be enough to trigger investigations at the highest levels. Multiple agencies, international courts. "We need to get this back to Khalid immediately." They carefully repacked the materials and left the bank moving purposefully but unhurriedly. No one gave them a second glance. Success seemed within reach as they hailed a taxi to return to Union Station. Then Ibrahim's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from Khalid. "Compromised, do not return. Alternative extraction needed." Sophia felt cold dread settle in her stomach. What happened? Ibrahim's expression hardened as he read the full message. Dr. Hassan's apartment was breached this morning. They escaped through a pre-planned exit route, but Khalid believes their security has been completely compromised. Someone very close to the Hassan organization must be working with the enemy. Are they safe? For now, they're at another safe location. Ibrahim was already typing a response, his mind calculating options. But we cannot risk returning to New York with this evidence. Too many watching eyes. What's the alternative? Director Robert Harlow, FBI Counterintelligence. He worked with your father years ago, one of the few officials Omar Hassan believed was uncorrupted. His office is 20 minutes from here. Sophia weighed the risks. Can we trust him? We have limited options. The evidence must reach proper authorities before Bin Rashid's people find us. Harlow has the position and influence to initiate immediate action, secure protective custody. Then we go to Harlow. Ibrahim directed their taxi to the FBI headquarters building, maintaining constant communication with Khalid through encrypted messages. As they approached the massive structure, Sophia clutched the envelope containing 2 years of secrets, of hidden truths of their father's final legacy. "Whatever happens," she said quietly to Ibrahim, "tell Khalid I'm grateful. For believing me, for helping me find the truth." Ibrahim regarded her with unexpected gentleness. "Tell him yourself when this is over. He has waited a long time to find someone worthy of his trust. Perhaps of more than trust." Before she could respond, the taxi pulled up to the security checkpoint. The moment of truth had arrived. They had the evidence. They had the names. Now they needed justice. Inside FBI headquarters, the process of reaching Director Harlow proved more complicated than anticipated. Security protocols, bureaucratic gatekeepers, and the director's busy schedule all presented obstacles. Ibrahim's credentials as former Saudi intelligence opened some doors, but it was the mention of William Morgan that finally gained them access. Ambassador Morgan's daughter. The assistant's eyebrows rose. "Director Harlow will want to speak with you immediately. He asked us to notify him if you ever surfaced." They were escorted to a secure conference room and asked to wait. 15 tense minutes later, the door opened to admit a tall man with silver hair and piercing blue eyes. Director Robert Harlow, 25 years with the Bureau, the last 8 leading counterintelligence operations. "Ms. Morgan," he said, his voice carrying both surprise and what seemed like genuine relief. "We've been looking for you for 2 years." "I'm aware," Sophia replied cautiously, "though perhaps not for the reasons you think." Harlow's gaze shifted to Ibrahim, assessing the man with professional interest. "And you would be?" "Ibrahim Al-Farran, security chief for Hassan International. We have come with evidence regarding the deaths of William Morgan and Omar Hassan, as well as the true circumstances of Victor Caldwell's demise." Harlow's expression remained neutral, but his posture tensed slightly. "Bold claims. I assume you have something to substantiate them." In answer, Sophia placed the envelope and recorder on the conference table. "Everything you need to understand Operation Mirage and the people behind it, including Caldwell's role as a traitor." Harlow stared at the items for a long moment before sitting down across from them. "I never believed you killed Caldwell," he said finally. "He was under internal investigation when he died. We had suspicions, but no concrete evidence of his activities." "You knew," Sophia couldn't keep the shock from her voice. "We suspected. Your father shared concerns with me privately off the record. When both he and Omar Hassan died within a week of each other, those suspicions grew, but we could never prove anything. Harlow tapped the envelope. Until now, perhaps. For the next hour, they laid out the evidence piece by piece. The financial networks connecting bin Rashid to American officials, the planned operations across the Middle East, the deaths of those who got too close to the truth. Throughout their presentation, Harlow listened intently, occasionally asking pointed questions that revealed his own deep understanding of the players involved. This goes deeper than I imagine, he said finally. The implications that elements within our own government have been compromised at this level. He looked up at them. You realize what this means? That bin Rashid has powerful allies who will try to bury this, Sophia said. Harlow nodded slowly. Which is why we need to move immediately. I have a safe house prepared for both of you while we implement the takedown operation. You'll need to testify once we begin making arrests. Both of us, Sophia questioned. You'll need protection until we have identified and neutralized all of bin Rashid's network. You remain in danger. Harlow's eyes moved between them. Where is Khalid Hassan now? Ibrahim answered carefully. A secure location in New York. He was compromised earlier today. He should join you in protective custody. His testimony will be equally valuable. A commotion outside interrupted them. Raised voices, then silence. One of Harlow's security team entered, his expression urgent. Sir, there's a situation in the lobby. A Saudi national named Khalid Hassan is demanding to see you. Says it's critical related to Ms. Morgan. Sophia and Ibrahim exchanged alarmed glances. Khalid was supposed to remain hidden in New York. Bring him up, Harlow ordered. Highest security protocols. 5 minutes later, the door opened again. Khalid Hassan entered, his normally immaculate appearance disheveled, a cut visible on his forehead. Behind him came a woman Sophia recognized as his sister, Dr. Hassan. Khalid, Sophia rose, moving toward him without thinking. What happened? You were supposed to stay hidden. They found us, he replied grimly. The safe house was compromised. Someone from inside my organization, someone with access to all our contingency plans. His eyes moved to Harlow. Director, thank you for seeing us. Mr. Hassan, Harlow nodded respectfully. Your timing is remarkable. We were just reviewing the evidence regarding your father's death in Operation Mirage. You have the documents, Khalid asked, Sophia, relief evident in his voice. Everything. Bank records, transcripts, audio recordings. Enough to expose the entire operation. She gestured to his injury. You're hurt. It's nothing. We had to leave quickly through a maintenance area. He placed a hand briefly on her arm, the touch conveying more than words could. You succeeded. Our fathers would be proud. The moment was interrupted by Harlow's secure phone ringing. The director answered, listened briefly, then his expression darkened. When he demanded, how many targets, evacuate immediately and implement containment protocols. He ended the call and faced the group, his manner shifting to full alert. We have a situation. An attack is imminent at the UN General Assembly special session today. Multiple operatives in position. Bin Rashid, Khalid said instantly. This must be the culmination of Operation Mirage, a coordinated attack on world leaders to destabilize international relations. Precisely. Harlow was already moving toward the door. I need to coordinate response teams. You 5 will be escorted to a secure location until the threat is contained. No, Sophia said firmly. I can help. My linguistic expertise, my knowledge of the operation. As can I, Khalid added. I know bin Rashid's methods, his thinking. We've come too far to stand aside now. Harlow hesitated, weighing options rapidly. Very well. You'll remain under FBI protection, but your insights may prove valuable in the response center. Dr. Hassan should still be moved to a secure location. I go where my brother goes, the neurologist stated flatly. Besides, you might need a medical professional before this is over. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of activity. They were escorted to the FBI's Strategic Operations Center, a high-tech command post, where dozens of agents coordinated the response to the unfolding threat. Harlow led the effort, dispatching teams to the UN, coordinating with NYPD and diplomatic security services, implementing countermeasures based on the intelligence from the Morgan Hassan evidence. Sophia found herself working alongside FBI linguists, analyzing intercepted communications, identifying operational code words used by bin Rashid's team. Khalid provided critical insights into the financial and logistical aspects of the operation, helping identify key personnel and likely attack vectors. On the massive screens around the room, they watched as security forces quietly surrounded the UN complex, identifying and neutralizing potential threats before they could act. One by one, operatives were detained, weapons were seized, bombs were disarmed. 7 suspects in custody, reported a senior agent, 2 more under surveillance. The Secretary General has been moved to a secure location within the building. All delegations have been quietly alerted to remain in the assembly chamber under enhanced protection. What about bin Rashid himself? Khalid asked, scanning the intelligence reports. No sign of him, Harlow replied. He was scheduled to attend as part of the Saudi delegation, but his office reported he was delayed by urgent business. He knew, Ibrahim said darkly. Someone warned him. The same person who compromised our safe houses, Khalid agreed. Someone with access to both my organization and government intelligence. Sophia, who had been reviewing a series of translated messages, suddenly straightened. Director Harlow, these communications mention a primary asset with the code name Falcon. Someone highly placed with access to both U.S. intelligence and Saudi commercial interest. Harlow studied the translations, his expression growing increasingly troubled. This matches patterns we've seen in other investigations. An unidentified mole at magnate senior levels. He looked up at Khalid, someone who might have access to your security protocols. And to FBI operations. Khalid added, the implication hanging heavily in the air. Someone in this very building could be compromised. Before they could pursue this disturbing possibility, alarms sounded throughout the operations center. Red alert notifications flashed on multiple screens. Breach at the east entrance of the UN complex, announced a tactical coordinator. Armed suspects have engaged with security forces. Casualties reported. Bin Rashid is forcing the issue, Khalid said grimly. When stealth failed, he switched to direct assault. All tactical teams converge on the east entrance, Harlow ordered. Evacuation protocols for all diplomatic personnel. Seal all access points to the General Assembly. For the next 30 minutes, they watched as a carefully orchestrated dance of violence and counter-violence played out on the screens before them. FBI tactical teams, NYPD emergency services, and UN security forces engaged bin Rashid's mercenaries in a complex but contained battle throughout the east wing of the UN complex. Through it all, Sophia and Khalid worked side by side, providing real-time intelligence and analysis that helped guide the response teams through the labyrinthine UN building. Their father's evidence combined with their own expertise proved invaluable in anticipating the attackers' movements and intentions. We're containing the situation, Harlow announced as reports of additional arrests came in. Minimal casualties, no breach of the General Assembly chamber. But bin Rashid remains free, Khalid noted, frustration evident in his voice. And whoever warned him, this Falcon, remains unidentified. One battle at a time, Mr. Hassan, Harlow counseled. We've prevented what could have been a catastrophic attack on world leaders. The evidence you and Ms. Morgan provided will dismantle bin Rashid's network. He's lost his operational capability, his financial resources are being frozen as we speak, and international arrest warrants are being prepared. Director called an agent from across the room. Urgent communication from our financial crimes division. They've traced a series of encrypted transactions related to Operation Mirage, all leading to an account linked to a senior American official. Harlow moved quickly to review the information, his expression hardening as he read the name on the screen. He turned to face the room, his voice cutting through the bustle of activity. I want Deputy Director James Reynolds located and detained immediately. All access revoked, all communications monitored. Consider him armed and dangerous. A shocked silence fell over the operations center. Reynolds was Harlow's second-in-command, a 20-year veteran of the Bureau with impeccable credentials. Falcon, Sophia whispered, the pieces falling into place. He had access to everything. FBI operations, diplomatic channels, surveillance capabilities. And through his position, he maintained regular contact with business leaders with Middle Eastern interests, Khalid added, including me. He attended multiple conferences where my security team presented our protocols. Ibrahim's expression darkened with professional outrage. The perfect mole, above suspicion with access to all the information bin Rashid needed. Find him, Harlow ordered the stunned agents around him. Now. As the hunt for Reynolds began, Sophia found herself standing beside Khalid near one of the Situation Room windows. For a moment amidst the controlled chaos of the operations center, they existed in their own bubble of shared understanding. "We did it," she said quietly. "We found the truth. For your father. For mine." Khalid's eyes, when they met hers, held a warmth that transcended their professional alliance. "Not completely. Not yet. Reynolds is still at large. Bin Rashid has escaped justice. But yes, we have honored their memory, continued their work." Without thinking, Sophia reached for his hand. He took it, his strong fingers intertwining with hers. A simple gesture, yet loaded with meaning. "What happens after?" she asked. "When this is over?" Before he could answer, Ibrahim approached rapidly. "Director Harlow needs you both. They've located Reynolds." The moment broken, they returned to the center of the room where Harlow stood before a tactical display. Reynolds was last seen entering the parking garage at his apartment building 20 minutes ago. Tactical teams are en route, but we have reason to believe he may have acquired the evidence you brought in. "How?" Sophia demanded. "It never left this building." "He accessed the secure evidence room 10 minutes before the UN attack began, before we identified him as Falcon." Harlow's expression was grim. "He took copies, not originals, hoping we wouldn't notice immediately." "He's running," Khalid concluded, "taking what evidence he can to Bin Rashid or destroying it. Either way, we need to apprehend him before he disappears." Harlow turned to them. "You two know this case better than anyone. You've lived it for 2 years. I want you with me when we confront Reynolds." The decision was made quickly. Sophia and Khalid would accompany Harlow and a tactical team to Reynolds' location. Dr. Hassan and Ibrahim would remain at the operations center, continuing to analyze incoming intelligence and coordinate responses. As they prepared to depart, Sophia felt a strange calm descend over her. 2 years of hiding, of searching for truth, had led to this moment. Justice for her father was within reach. The man who had helped orchestrate his death would face consequences. She caught Khalid watching her, his expression reflecting her own